Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. What? That was the intro. Nobody gets it. Fine. Hi guys, and welcome back to my Coco Chanel. Now in today's video, I'm going to be looking at specifically how much weight can you lose in 2 weeks, what is a safe amount of weight to lose in 2 weeks, and different strategies of doing that. Now first thing, I'm going to be looking at aggressive dieting versus slower, sustainable dieting over time. And sometimes aggressive dieting gets a bit of a bad name for itself and is stigmatized sometimes in the industry. But there are some plus points and benefits to it, and this has been illustrated by both Eric Helms and Lyle McDonald. If you want to have a little look on their YouTube channels, they put plenty of research out there over recent years on aggressive dieting and how it can have some benefits. Now people's weight loss is very much going to be dependent on the starting point. So when we look at the rate at which you should be losing weight, if you are quite heavily overweight or even obese, then we may say that a good starting point for you to lose on a weekly basis may be 2 to 3% of your total body weight per week, which is quite aggressive. This amount of weight is always quite substantial for larger people, but it's also a great motivation to start them to lose quite a lot of weight, because then that'll keep them going on their journey. Although it's important to remember that this amount of weight loss isn't going to be continuous right up until the point or wherever your goal may be. However, when we look at people who may be starting at a body fat percentage around maybe even 10 to 15% and looking to drop down, we may be looking at a drop of only 1% per week, and then where we really get down into the lower body fat percentages, that may even drop to 0.5% per week. So again, it's massively dependent on where your starting point is. As I've stated in my last video though, which I'll link somewhere around here, which is about diet breaks and refeeds, it's important to remember that you can't aggressively diet for long periods of time, not really anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. So it's important to have these diet breaks or refeeds in order to replenish glycogen and to make sure that your hormones are sitting at a nice healthy level. Now I think for me, in terms of dieting a little bit more aggressive this time, because I'm going on holiday in 2 weeks, I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to do it. For me, sometimes a slower weight loss period, especially for someone who's starting at a really heavier weight, can sometimes be demotivating. For example, if you're only losing £1 per week, and for you to get down to a healthy weight, you've got to lose 30 to 40 pounds. For someone that way, it may even take up to a year if you're only chipping away really slowly. So what are you actually losing during this weight loss period, muscle or fat? So it's important to look at that just for the sake of losing weight isn't always a plus point. If you're not doing kind of any resistance training, then your body wastage is obviously going to get rid of that muscle in order to lose weight. So including some kind of resistance training during this weight loss period is going to be really important to you, especially if you don't want to end up looking like an empty Asda bag at the end of it because you just lost a load of weight and now have no shape. As long as you're incorporating some kind of resistance training or resistance split over this 2 week block, then you should be absolutely fine and be able to still hold on to that muscle tissue that you've got and even be building muscle. If you're creating a resistance on the muscle and stimulating it, is going to continue to be there. The important thing to remember though, for those people who are already at lower body fat percentages, is that you probably are going to get a bit of muscle wastage, but for those people who are going to get that, it's often quite a fair trade-off. Whenever you look a little leaner, you're always going to look a little bit bigger, so that compromise isn't always a bad thing. It's also important to know that if you are starting at a heavier weight and a higher body fat percentage, then when you are weight training and dieting down, these people often hold on to muscle tissue a lot better because they're holding a lot more body fat, which can then be used as energy expenditure. Now, diet versus exercise for weight loss, and this is where I get quite a lot of questions from. So when we first look at where you should be getting your deficit from, it is possible just to lose weight by controlling your caloric deficit via your diet. You will not even have to exercise or step foot in the gym in order to lose weight. But as we just stated previously, if you still want to hold on to a bit of that shape, you want to hold on to some muscle tissue, then incorporating some resistance training and even some cardio in there at a later stage, use your tools along the way, is going to be really beneficial to you. I think one of the big things for me over the last 2 weeks has been that in my office, I've now bought a stand-up desk. So in terms of increasing my daily energy expenditure, it's thought around that if you stand up as opposed to sit down, you're going to burn twice the amount of calories. So just by simply standing up over the last 2 weeks has really helped bring my energy expenditure up on a day-to-day basis. Now, how have I set my diet up for the next 2 weeks? So I decided to set my diet up using the My Coach School calorie calculator, which is going to allow you to put in certain preferences like your height, your weight, your age, your goal, in order to work out what your daily calorie allowance should be for your deficit in order to drop weight over the next 2 weeks. And also it should give you your macro breakdown. So I'm also going, after I've got that, the calorie breakdown, I chipped off a little bit more of mine as opposed to what the Micro School give me, because again, we're going into a more aggressive period of dieting. So what did my diet look like over the last 2 weeks? So my diet, I always start at the moment, I'm fasting, so I don't usually eat until about 1 p.m. and that's going to start with my daily fast bowl. So the daily fast bowl is pretty much a bowl of oats, which has oats, whey, apple, a few other bits like frozen fruits and cinnamon, and generally that'll clock up to about 690 calories, 40 grams of protein, big chunk of carbs in there, so 100 grams of carbs, because I train first thing in the morning, so I have all my carbs post training, and it has about 18 grams of fats. And then throughout the day, my carbohydrates are then a lot lower. So going into my lunchtime meal is really basic meal, which is simply just a chicken salad. But of course, I put my sauces on top of that as well, such as mayonnaise, barbecue, which I think a lot of people leave out the condiments and forget about how vital, how many calories they can add on to your daily caloric intake. My next meal then is just not really a meal, it's a snack one, which is a protein bar, PhD, or sometimes I have a macro munch bar. I haven't got one on me. The calories generally stay around the same, which is about 230 calories, 20 grams of protein, 23 grams of carbs, and 11 grams of fat. Then my next meal is one of the meals off the My Coach School. So again, you can find a lot of these meals that are within my day-to-day on the My Coach School, and that is going to be an aubergine dinner meal with chicken, and it has a few other bits like spinach, broccoli, a bit of tomato passata. A lot of volume from this meal and fairly low calories at 457 calories. 54 grams of protein, 39 grams of fat, sorry, scratch that, 39 grams of carbs, 8 grams of fat. And then for my last meal of the day, I then have yogurt with some frozen fruits, which is snack 2, about 200 calories, 8 grams of protein, 32 grams of carbs and 5 grams of fat. Now this works out a daily total of 2,000 calories, works out 173 grams of protein, 220 grams of carbs and 51 grams of fat. Now, how I set my training up for the next 2 weeks. So I generally follow a push-pull leg split, and this is usually broken down for my weekly split as the following, but I also include in there, I include 2 week point days. So for me, my weak points are hamstrings and chest. So they fit into the following split. I usually do hamstrings on a Monday. Tuesday, I'll do push, which is chest, shoulders and triceps. Wednesday, I'll just split the week up and do a little bit of mobility work. Thursday, again, is another weak point day, just doing chest and tricep work in order to develop my chest. Friday, I'll do my pull movements, and then Saturday, I'll just focus on lower and legs in general. Now, it's important to note that my training has been exactly the same as it always will be, still progressively overloading and getting a good mixture of lifting heavy at the start of workouts and then moving into some more hypertrophy based work. However, then moving into the second week of this 2 week cut, I decided to up my cardio a little bit with a few more treadmill walks, including about 3 treadmill walks per week for about 45 minutes, and then also adding in 1 run, which was usually outdoors for about 6 to 8k. Again, all these workouts that I've been doing over the last 2 weeks can be found on the My Coach School under workouts that I've been completing in this 2 week cutting period. Just before we move into how much I've lost over this 2 weeks, I think it's important that we speak about how you're monitoring your fat loss and your weight loss. So I know a lot of people bash the scales and say it's not a good thing to weigh yourself, but I think for someone who is starting at a lot heavier weight, who's more obese, you could lose about 10 pounds and see no difference in composition from just taking images. So having that scales there for someone who's more obese can be really important in order to keep motivation over this cutting period. Secondly, again, images are really vital and really important, especially for someone who's starting at a leaner body weight, because you may be dropping like 1 pound to 1.5 pound per week, which may not sound like a lot, but then visually when you take the images, you can see a lot of change. Just to quickly mention as well, through a 2 week period of sometimes when you are weighing yourself, why you may see no changes on the scales, but see again, visual changes may be down to that time of the month for females. It could be down to glycogen storage, could be down to water, through to having larger meals. It may be down to stress. And I think this, in terms of, for most people, it's down to glycogen and water. So for example, if you've had a large meal the night before, so I'm going to put this into a preference of your body is going to soak up a lot of water if you're taking in a lot of glycogen. So for every gram of glycogen that your body holds from carbs, you're going to hold 3 grams of water. So to put this to you visually, I've decided to use this donut example. So for example, if I put this donut, which we'll say is glycogen, or 1 gram of glycogen, into water, it's going to soak up the water, so your body is going to hold on to more water. So again, if I now transfer this donut over into the bowl, soak it off, you can now see how much water this donut has been holding, which may accumulate for some of the water weight that you're holding. So you could probably go on a run and you'd end up sweating a lot of this water out. So just bear that in mind when you are weighing yourselves, that this kind of glycogen and water storage can accumulate, and can be the reason why you are not a little bit lighter that week. So my starting body weight for this cutting period, this aggressive cutting period, was 14 stone 1. And as you can see from the images at the starting point, I wasn't massively overweight, didn't have loads of body fat. And week 1 was pretty tough. In week 1, transition to week 2, where you can now see me get on the scales, I actually only managed to lose 1 pound, which is why moving into week 2 I decided to implement some more cardio. But as I said again at the start, it isn't all about the numbers on the scales. Week 2's images, I was already a little bit leaner from what I could see. I started to come in a little bit more around the midsection and the lower back. And then jumping on to week 2 after implementing a little bit more cardio, the exact same resistance training and the exact same calories, I then got on the scales and was down to 13.11. So that actually dropped 3 pounds in that second week, so a 4 pound weight loss overall. And I think in the images for the end of week 2, so it wasn't a full actual 14-day period, as I'm going away on holiday tomorrow, so I won't get a chance to get up tomorrow morning and do them. But from this 13-day period, I think on the images that you can see from the front, back and side there, that I'm starting to come in really, really nicely from that 4 pound. There's been quite a nice amount of body fat that's been lost. And also from the video that you can see, I'm coming a lot tighter around the waist, through the obliques and through the lower back. Now you've got to remember, 4 pound, as I mentioned before, for someone who's maybe at 20% body fat or higher, isn't going to be an awful lot, and you're probably not going to see a lot of change or as much change that I've seen, but you may see more movement on the scales. So how much weight should you be looking to use? I think this video is an evidence of it does depend massively on where your starting point is. So we prefer to break this down into general percentages, like I said before. 2 to 3% for someone who's a bit heavier, maybe 1 to 2% for someone who's a bit leaner, and someone who's really lean, even down to 0.5% of your total body weight per week. And again, I think it comes down to what is safe versus what is lifestyle balanced. If you're someone who's looking to drop down for a bit of weight from the beach, like I am, I've got a bit of a beach body at the moment, versus someone who's looking to compete, then this 2-week cycle may continue for a lot longer period of time in order to get down to competitive bodybuilding standards or body fat percentages, where it's going to be more, not dangerous, but it's not going to be as healthy for the body. You're not going to stay there for as long, versus something that's going to be more sustainable when you get there. I think the other thing to mention is that this is kind of a massively point A to point B mindset that I've been over the last 2 weeks, just in order to get my weight down and aggressive, more dietly. But if you prolong this type of mindset over a long period of time, I think it is going to negatively impact your relationship with food. And when you get down to that body fat percentage or that weight that you want to be at, what happens from there? Is it sustainable? Are you going to be able to get those relationships back with food that you once had? I think that's why it's important that you don't really extend these aggressive dieting periods any more than 2 to 4 weeks, and after that you give yourself a diet break. Now I hope this video was really helpful in order for you to find out a bit more how much weight is possible to lose, how different factors may affect that, and how there's not a one size fits all approach when it comes to weight loss, and also how varying factors can affect weight loss, such as obviously age, sex, weight, height, what your goal is at the end, and what your starting point is to begin with. I think it's just really important that you start off by, when you are setting your goal for a weekly purpose, that you start with those percentages based on where your starting point is, and then progressively bring those down as you get down to lower percentages. Now if you found this video helpful, guys, then please give it a massive thumbs up and a like, and if this is your first time on my channel, then please make sure that you subscribe, and I will catch you in my next video.
You're asking why you started out to face it, my heart went off like crazy.